And then what is going to happen? Let's make sure we pop up on the YouTubes. Yes, we are. Excellent connection, it says. That's always a good sign. All right, exciting times, man. This is the big leagues at this point. Like, doesn't get any better than this.
Just got notified that we are going
Yeah, I
live.
mean, essentially, we're TV stars. Like, like we're up there with like uh, Tim the Tap Man. I don't know. Like, who are the big YouTubers nowadays?
I don't
I
know
don't know
who
if Tim the
either of
Tap
them.
Man's a streamer, but I don't know either. A YouTuber 46, I think. I don't know. You just say YouTuber and then put a number behind it, and that's the big YouTuber we're trying to be. So that's pretty cool.
Well, there's YouTubers of multiple millions and millions, but they're all, I don't know. It's just strange.
It is a weird world. But that's where we're at now. We're at the top of the pecking order now. Okay, so I'm going to share this because it just seems like the right thing to do at the right time. Where is that share stream? How weird. How do I? Sorry, Mike. It's been a long day. Yeah, that is supposed to share it. That is supposed to share it. We have one concurrent viewer. I believe it's YouTuber 26.
Oh, like I'm currently watching right now just to see what we're sharing.
I know it's you, but I'd like to think it's somebody.
Someone else.
Yep, somebody famous. Okay, so let me go to my channel. We are live. Sorry, anybody who's watching, welcome to the channel.
Yeah. Welcome. We're just hanging out, chatting. This is our kind of like bi-weekly checking with each other, checking with projects, how things are going, seeing what we're working on, all that good stuff.
There we go. Copy and paste. All right, we've tweeted now. That may have been our first tweet ever for the Blender News Show.
It's amazing.
It might have been our second, but I think it's kind of a big deal.
It is the biggest of deals.
For those of you who are Twitter who tweet at a regular basis, I can't remember. Mike, do you tweet? Are you a Twitter tweeter?
I am a it's something that I don't do. I'm actually it's I'm sure it's not great for my career, but I'm not on a whole lot of social media. Trying to focus on the art, but I love getting on YouTube and doing these live streams. I'm on Instagram, I'm hardly on Facebook, and I actually don't have a personal Twitter account.
If I may be so bold, social media is pretty dumb. So it's a dumb thing. So I don't think you should feel bad at all.
But for this project, for this endeavor that we have decided to go upon, I
Yeah.
do think having a Twitter account just so we can let people know that we're doing things is a good idea.
Yeah, so I tweeted on my Twitter, my Facebook. That's it. But
Cool.
this is the pre-show for those who are lucky enough to see this in its raw format like this. This is the Blender Noobs pre-show. We're currently now at 2 concurrent viewers. I'm not gonna lie, it's because I pulled up our our channel. We're awesome. Okay.
Perfect.
I digress. Yeah, you know what? This is great. We're getting back into it. It's been a month. This is the pre-show. Let's kick it off. Let's do the real deal, shall we?
Yes.
All right. I'm a little nervous, but let's do it. We'll kick off our noobs intro here. And there we go. Welcome to the Blender Noob Show. I'm the Checkpoint Professor, also known as the Checkpoint Professor. And as always, here with my co-host.
Mike Reese, also known as Melting Face 3D on the other parts of the interwebs. Another Blender noob.
Yeah, another Blender Noob Show. And for those of you new to the show, Mike, what do we talk about on this show?
we talk about a whole lot of stuff. It's mainly, projects that we are doing in Blender and like things that are Blender related in or around Blender, and then any kind of like big news that has come out and um, our thoughts around that. And then a lot of times we take a whole lot of tangents when it comes to like art and being a professional person and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of all over the place, but I love it.
Yeah, we do a lot of fun stuff. So for those of you that are new as well, just really quick introduction. I think it's always apropos. My name really is not just Checkpoint Professor. That is not the name my parents gave to me, but they wish it were. But I am currently a university professor where I teach video game design, former level designer for Disney Interactive Studios, and Blender noob. So while I do have a lot of experience with multiple 3D software programs, Blender is that beast that always eluded me that I'm looking forward to getting better at. And Mike, what's your experience with Blender?
Well, yeah. So my name is Mike Reese. I've been in the 3D industry for over a decade. I work for a company called Vector Solutions. We do 3D um, 3D e-learning as well as a bunch of other software. And with Blender, so my background has typically been with like 3D Studio Max and V-Ray and all that kind of stuff. But with Blender, I'm taking that dive into learning all things that that I used to do with Max, and now I'm doing personal projects and all that kind of stuff with Blender. So I'm kind of like learning everything that Blender has to offer, which is a whole lot. And so I'm taking some tangents that I wouldn't potentially normally have done and learning different things. It's been a crazy awesome journey so far.
That is awesome. So that being said, we've got an awesome show today. We are going to talk about what's new in Blender, and then Mike is going to talk about some of what he's been working on and what we've both been working on. So why don't we kick it off? Mike, is there anything new going on in Blender this week?
Well, in terms of actually big Blender news, there's nothing that's been, terribly huge, but um, one of the things that is coming up, it's anticipated, and that's Blender 3.0. There's a lot of like other fellow YouTubers who have already downloaded, the 3.0 like in development version, and so they're doing some videos on that and playing around. One of the biggest aspects of 3.0, is going to be Cycles X. We've talked about that on the show before, and that's going to be revamped Blender Cycles and some like EV improvements. The other big thing that people are talking about is the asset browser, which actually I'm going to talk about uh, uh, an asset browsing thing in general. It's like an asset management system that is pretty great, and I'm sure Blender 3.0 will have a really great like asset manager. But if you want to get your hands on like one right now, I can. I was going to present like a free like asset management system that can also that seamlessly integrates into Blender right now. That could help you for any number of things. But those, in terms of the news, that's currently that's kind of what's going on, and like anyone can kind of check out where Blender 3.0 is at the current time in development, uh, right on the Blender website, and you can go to the Blender development section of that, and you can just dive into that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So, low news going on this week. By the way, if you have any news you'd like to share on the Blender Noob Show, or would like to be a special guest, if you're an artist and want to show off some of your work, you can always comment or message us on Twitter. The link will be down below in the description. But also, yeah, we are looking to share anything Blender during this show. Our YouTube channel is now up to 32 subscribers. That's with not a lot of like sharing on our end. So that's all organic subs, and it's starting to get a little bit of attention. Mike's going to talk about one of the tutorial videos that he has been posting and is posting this week that are getting a lot of views that we're pretty excited about, as well as some of the stuff he's been up to. But yeah, definitely follow and give us a sub and keep up to all things Blender.
Yeah. So maybe to kick us off is that, we just released another tutorial video. It's the third one in the series of just kind of getting started with your first animation, and there's a couple of big tips on making preview animations. That was like the first video. Getting a map pass, that was the second video, and then the third video is preparing like those materials to bring into After Effects. Now, my background, um, because I have done videos for so long, I tend to use After Effects a ton at work, and so the perspective that I have is different than some others where like we would definitely want to get the final animation will be uh, made in Blender, but then maybe brought into another program like After Effects to do additional cool things. We posted some finished projects recently that used After Effects. So try and take a different perspective on like all the different ways that you can use Blender to bring into other programs to maybe do some additional effects and all that kind of stuff. So that particular video it's almost 40 minutes of just bringing in some preview animations and starting to prepare your animation for self review, so that then you can refine more within Blender and tell the story that you want to tell. So that's that video. Check it out. I'm going to be making another video that's going to kind of finishing off that part of the series. It's a part of our like beginner tutorial series, and then some videos to come. We'll be talking about cycles and some of the features in there. Talking about denoising, a lot of the things, some of the things I learned while doing some other Blender projects that really helped me out, save some render time. Um, and then yeah, some final compositing techniques. So beginning compositing, rendering, and then final compositing. That's what's kind of coming up.
It's awesome. I can't wait. And as always, I've been working on a personal mobile game project for the last little bit. The last couple streams we did, I showed off some of the work I'd been doing on that. I'd done some simple animations in Blender. But coming up, that's what I plan on getting into a little bit more. Right now, it's been a lot of Unreal Engine work, and so I haven't had an opportunity to do a lot of modeling yet. So now that I've kind of got a little bit of that fleshed out, in the next couple weeks to a month, you'll start seeing more updates from me. And I'm hoping to get at least some short little tidbit tutorials out of those as well, to add some supplemental material to the Blender Noob show. Currently, Mike's the heavyweight, pumping out the tutorials like a Gatling gun, I guess.
You know, making videos like that takes longer than you'd think. There's planning, then there's the file preparedness, and then you got to actually record it, and then you got to edit it. But it's been really good, and when you do make videos like that, it does help you kind of solidify some of like the knowledge that you learned.
Right. No, making the videos is no joke. It's a serious. That's a part-time job right there. And the other part-time job is shooting them, so it's a full-time job. It's a passion project for sure. I mean, if you think about Blender in general, it's a free-to-use program, and we are just sharing our passion for basically the power of a general use product like that. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, and it's been a lot of fun. One of the things that I kind of wanted to discuss is like Gabe, what do you tend to do like after you like finish a, a big project? Like what's some of the first things that you do, or like how do you debrief after a project like something that's big?
Usually I'll take a little bit of a break, right? And then usually typically start exploring what you want to do as the next project. And usually for me, typically it's something different than the one previous. So kind of doing some research on what I would like to learn next and how that next project will get me to that goal kind of that I've set out to achieve. So that's kind of the way I look at it is doing something I haven't done before, right? And doing it in a unique way. So
That's awesome, and it's kind of what I've been doing a little bit. So uh, we finished, or I finished the Game Boy Advance project. That was a big modeling project. But it was very focused on a singular asset. So what I've been doing is to kind of take a step back and to kind of be inspired. I've actually been doing a large tutorial with someone else. Not like learning from someone else has been that's one of the ways that I kind of get inspired, especially um, like if you've done 3D work before. Once you start getting into other people's tutorials, sometimes you want to experiment differently than just following along straight through, and sometimes you're able to um, uh, see different things and explore different ways of doing stuff than just the way that they're presenting in the tutorial. So um, I could kind of go. What I wanted to do was shout out to the uh, tutorial that I am currently going through to learn some more Blender material, some more Blender tips and tricks and ways to do things in Blender because it's so massive and so deep. Um, but then kind of just show off some of the things that have helped me out and I think could help out the community and to shout out some other content creators.
I love that. And I think it kind of goes to the pre-show kind of discussion we were having a little bit about what we wanted to get out of the Blender Noob show. And I think one of the things that Mike, I think you're really starting to enjoy doing, not just the live stream, but the tutorials in general, is finding ways to shout out and teach other people, right?
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, sometimes you and I will do a lot of it, even if you do a tutorial and put like your unique twist on it, that's something worth sharing in my mind. Partly because whatever kind of helps somebody else or creates a product that helps somebody learn something new in Blender is a win, even if it's a variation off of what someone else has done, an homage. So yeah, I've noticed when I do a lot of the tutorials, and I recreate them, I always have my own like personal little spin on it or some additional thing that you add to it, and
Mhm.
that's how innovation happens. That's how people progress in that knowledge. Just because something's been taught before doesn't mean it's not super helpful. And then we are also talking about even experienced Blender noobs, I guess, or even game designers or software engineers or whatever field you're in, where even if you've been doing it for 10 years, those finding those tutorials that help you do that little thing is super helpful. And I think an example of that is even when I was working in industry, whether it was in an Unreal or I needed to know how a little bit of logic or a little bit of code works, something that you wouldn't do very often. Knowing where that tutorial is and kind of the timestamp generally of where to look for that information again builds this visual reference library within your head actually by doing more and more tutorials. It just gives you a better, makes you a stronger developer of either film or videos or whatever you're doing. So it can be very helpful. That's kind of the segue right there, Mike, to
Yeah.
hop into what we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Let me, I guess, share my screen and then briefly talk about just the thing that I'm doing. Um, and then I can kind of shout out. Yes. Okay. Screen. Just trying to share it.
Oh,
Oh, there
good.
it is.
As soon as you
Missing the button.
share. Okay, now I'm
Yeah.
gonna hold on. Let me adjust my screen now so it does the full screen share, and then I can hide my beautiful face. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So I am sure any person that has been doing Blender for a little while will kind of potentially recognize what they're seeing here. So I am currently, I don't know, 20% through. Um, his name is Rob Tuttle's humongous uh, uh, beginner tutorial, but it's kind of like it goes from like beginner up through intermediate on 3D environment creation. And typically, I've done like a lot of characters and I've done some environments, I've done assets, but I really, really wanted to get into more large form environments. And Rob has a humongous, 64 hours long, and I actually um what's something that I think is a little tidbit that, like, if you can, um, when you're doing those big, long how-to videos, one thing that Rob does really well is he breaks up into many small little sections, which is something that I'm, you know, taking that and, kinda seeing how he's doing his own how-to videos, which is great.
So with
But
sorry, with 64 hours, how long are his sections? Is it like
oh,
61-hour sections?
no, it's like 3 or 4 minute, like, up to, like, 12-minute little videos.
for
So
60
it
for 60 hours?
yeah, so
Holy
it
smokes.
it goes through, like, 4 projects, like, 4 major projects, and what's cool about what Rob does is he breaks it, or he builds it, like, up, like, throughout the entire videos, like, where you do something very, very basic up through something that's really complicated. And so, and from what I see is there may be a big section of, where he actually jumps versions, so he actually may re-explain things, but he goes through making little assets and then building up to larger assets and then building up to even bigger assets. So it's been a lot of fun, and what's great is that there's some repetitiveness, which is actually good because you want to kind of do things like over and over again. But what I tend to do with some tutorials is I will watch, a section, and then I'll just kind of like turn it off and then do it and then fumble around and actually, like, you know, do things step by step the with Rob, but then also just trying to like mess around with stuff because I don't know, we all have our own preferences. So, like as you can see here, this is just like the first section. We built this wall, this like old abandoned wall. We have this looks very, very basic, and I'll show you the current render. But um, the things that have been really fun to learn is, I'm using several particle systems within Blender, which is really cool. Doing weight painting with those particle systems. Um, Obviously using like HDRIs and using displacement maps. So what's cool is that this is all within Blender. I'm definitely used to like doing some more complicated unwraps and bring it into Substance Painter, but this is making the most out of every single feature within Blender. So currently you're not seeing all the particle systems at work, but I'm going to expand the actual rendered view of what I have currently, and I'm almost done with this section,
Oh wow.
but this is actually what it looks like rendered. So we
Whoa.
have, yeah, it's, I mean, there, there's a lot that you're not actually seeing, and it's just looking at like the solid view. But there's textures and there's mud and there's brick and there's some cool lighting and like an HDRI, and um, still have to do some stuff with the water and some fog. But this section is almost done. One of the cooler things that we did was that we built blades of grass, and then we built clumps of grass, and then that was using a particle system to do all this grass right here, which is pretty awesome and pretty straightforward to do within Blender. And those are the kind of things that are somewhat intimidating to do, like within 3D,
Yeah,
is to
that.
like use your own particle systems and stuff.
Yeah.
But once you kind of do it, it becomes a lot of fun. So like, like each of these blades of grass, I modeled like 7, 8, 10. Actually, there's like 16 versions of it, and that built this cool, you know set. And this wall right here, we built in, this was very, very easily built, and, um, you know, did some cool unwrap techniques and remeshed it. So it's pretty cool considering, this kind of thing, when like we were in college would have
Yeah.
been a pretty big deal to do.
Right. So does that have like some deformation maps on it? Is that
Yeah, so we built this wall, and then there's a PBR texture on it with also like a displacement, a normal map, and yeah.
oh,
So
looks sick,
s-
dude?
yeah, and then there's mud, and there's this reeds, and there's grass. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's I'm still learning a ton, but I just wanted to shout out Rob. If if anyone gets a chance to take this environment course, you should definitely do that.
And
Um,
remind us once again where you can take that course.
So I'm currently taking it through Udemy, but I think you can actually take it through his own website called Polyhaven.
Okay.
Polyhaven is one of his companies, or one of his company. Um, it's free materials, models, and textures, or yeah, free HDRIs, free textures, free models. So very much in the same vein as what Blender's doing. He
Yeah.
has created his own, um, you know, little place where you can just grab amazing photo scans, HDRIs, things. This is Rob right here. So great resources, great resources. Definitely check this out. Support him if you can. Rob's giving back. We're trying to get back, and whenever we can, we should be shouting out other content creators who are doing fantastic work. But yeah, so I just want to give him a shout out, and thanks for helping me out because it's been a lot of fun.
No, that's fantastic. So is that giving you a lot of ideas for like little extra supplemental tutorials you want to do for the Blender noobs or
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that um, there's, I mean, whenever like I definitely have some bigger projects in mind, and one of them is a fusion between, you know, like one of the bigger projects I have in mind is like a big environment with like actually like a big like kaiju creature showing scale, and so just doing these things and kind of seeing different workflows
yeah.
has really helped me out because this current workflow, and I'm just going to close this, but this workflow is much different. This is more of like the uh sta it's the more standard um three visual effects 3D movie workflow,
Mhm.
whereas you would potentially do something different if you were going to put this into Unreal, or if you were going to put this into a game, and into a game or into something else. So it's kind of cool seeing how to pretty quickly and without too much difficulty, build a whole grass particle system, and do these things that where you can quickly populate, large areas and get a lot of work done pretty quickly,
Uh,
which is cool.
yeah, that is rad. That
So
is really exciting.
yeah, so it's been helpful for me, and I definitely encourage people that when they're going through some of these tutorials to take some time and stop the tutorial and start messing around with things to see what other effects can happen, which is kind of what I do, and I tend to screw things up, but then that helps me understand the system even more as to like, okay, that's why that happened, and so that's
Yeah.
been good.
Yeah, I think it's always good to like try and after you've done a tutorial, do some of the stuff on your own without the
Yeah.
guidance. And I think maybe we've talked on this about this on a previous episode, but that's one of the things that tutorials are great, but at the end of the day, they don't solidify that information as much as if you were actually solving a problem yourself. And so it's really one of those things in the education field that I actually prefer to give students assignments that are more problem solving the creative
Hmm.
process and have them figure it out.
Yeah.
But tutorials are helpful in their own right. And like I said, once you already somewhat understand like Blender and the process, tutorials are extremely powerful because once you've kind of really gotten the hang of it, you can almost just watch a tutorial because you're already familiar with the tools and be like, yes, that's how you do that thing. And you can then jump in and do it the next time.
Yeah, yeah, and for me, sometimes what they help me do is they give me a break in between bigger projects
Yeah.
where I can kinda not have to think as much, but then start still absorb and still think about the next thing I wanna do,
Yep.
while still learning and improving and not taking, you know, uh, just straight time off and not doing any kinda art.
Yep.
Because, it's kinda like, you gotta continuously, like, work out that muscle.
Yeah.
So that's what these help me do, these, like, long form, uh, tutorials.
I actually like that idea. So, and a little hot tip for anyone too who's just starting out or even seasoned, right? Is just like Mike just said, like in between a project. So, a project like the Game Boy project or even the little game project I'm doing doesn't have a definite end to it, right? I
Right.
mean, it kind of does, but it's something you could probably continue to noodle on forever or put off. The beautiful thing, like you said about a tutorial, doing a tutorial in between a project is like you can set some pretty set goals for completing that because you
Yep.
know how many hours it is, right? So you can say, if it was like an 8 hour Udemy tutorial on a certain aspect of Blender or Unreal, I could say, you know what, 2 weeks, I can get this done. And reasonably, you can do that. Whereas if it's a creative project, I was talking to someone early about this today. If you're a contractor, even if you're an artist who knows how to do something, or a web designer, or a film producer, right? People always want an estimate for how much time it will take you. And the rule of thumb is figure out about how much time it'll take and then times it by 3. Because with creative projects, they never take how much time you'll think they will. But that's the beautiful thing about a tutorial is it's like, yeah, I know how long this will take. And it kind of is stress-free and kind of fun to do.
Well, that and, like what you just said, if you're learning how to do new things and you can kinda put a timeline to those, you can better estimate how long things take after you kinda get those figured out. So,
So true.
uh, um yeah, go ahead, Gabe.
No, that I was just saying truer
Yeah.
words.
The other thing that, I kinda wanted to kinda get people's some attention is something called Connector app. Um, this I is a, free asset manager that people can use right now that, that I personally use to help manage folders and assets and names, and you can tag things, and so this is works for like not only Blender, but it works for many files. So just to give you guys an idea about how this works, um, this is from designconnected.com. Definitely look that up. This is called Connector, and you just point, these to folders that you have. But what's really cool is that you can then see them visually. If it's a rendered sequence, you can see them stacked, so you don't have to, see 200 like sequential renders, but you can just see them like a stacked version. But what's really neat about this is that you can see videos, you can see Photoshop files, PNG files, anything you can think of. You can, plus it can preview 3D files for you. So, like, if I were to go to my fire hydrant,
Oh, that's awesome.
you can kind of you can see all these previews like of like my textures. Here's the actual 3D file that I have here. You can see that there's like 15 versions of this. Then you can open it. It has like file details. But what's really cool is that you can actually give things tags. So like if I were to go to foliage, I tagged these assets as foliage, and then they'll just pop up real quick.
Oh, that's awesome.
So this is a really great way to like keep yourself organized, and with Blender, it completely integrates into Blender. So this app, this piece of software, once you let's I'm gonna save, and I'm just going to do. do something new here. So if I were to, get all the old Blender cube, um, the that app does you can download the actual add-on for Blender. Um, that way, if you want to like add a like an actual asset, like a chair or like things to add to like your collection that you can then kit bash into other files later on. You can do that right now. So I've just made a cube and now I'm going to put it into my asset library. So what I've done is I have so if we go to generic assets and I'm going to add the asset to there. Takes a little while. So now I've actually just added that cube to the asset library.
Oh, that's rad.
So if you go back
So how's that different from just like an export?
well, what's cool is that then you can then I think what you can do. So here's the cube. What it does is it like automatically does a preview render using like cycles or Eevee, so you can get like a really like a quick render with it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can, oh, you could drag, yeah, then you can drag the file actually into your scene, and then you can link it. You can link the object or the materials, or you can bring in whole collections. So we're just going to append. Oh, actually, I guess we're not going to append. Going to, let's do this. Yeah, so they can just,
Oh, that's rad.
you can do multiples.
Yeah.
So like, let's say that, so then now, it has this cube, but let's say that you had like a whole furniture set. You could build your whole, you can build this whole thing, but then you can right click on different assets to then, put into your asset library. You can make it just a model, but you can do the models and materials. But what's cool is that you can also just save materials right from like an asset. So see how you can just do like add current, you can you can just do materials and stuff.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that you can then drag and drop those materials onto different objects.
Oh, so this is a little bit like Unreal's asset library, honestly.
Yeah. And
So
what's really awesome about Design Connected about this app is that it it not only integrates with Blender but with Maya and with 3ds Studio Max and pretty soon with I think the Unreal Engine and maybe even Unity. So it's more than just a Blender add-on.
yeah,
It's a whole asset manager.
yeah, I can see how it would be cross-platform easily.
Yeah.
That's really neat. That's
So
awesome.
it's another cool way to help your asset management while you wait for the Blender Asset Manager to come out in 3.0.
I love it. That's that. Once again, uh, we've had, once again we've talked about more interesting things than I initially thought we would. Starting out the show,
Isn't that always the case?
it's always the case. It's always fun doing this, and I'm excited for the future. This is really great.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Major Moose, thanks for joining. We're pretty deep into it, but we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, big shout out to Major Moose. He's actually a friend of mine from over on Twitch, where I stream Mario Maker and other games.
Oh, cool. I'm glad you get to talk to him.
Yeah. So big shout out for Major Moose.
I am going to stop sharing my screen.
All right, we'll bring you back on.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I wanted to say. So.
Hold on, I'm gonna fix you so we can do a proper goodbye. Let's get rid of that other screen share. There we go. Awesome. Well, thank you, Mike. Thanks for sharing all that. Once again, showing us some really awesome stuff you've been working on in Blender. Always a pleasure. Everybody who stopped by today, Major Moose especially, near and dear to my heart, for joining us in chat. We look forward to doing some more live streams and, of course, posting some more Blender tutorials up on the old Blender Noobs YouTube channel here. So make sure you subscribe and like for more awesome content. And we'll be back in a couple weeks with another high impact episode of the Blender Noob Show.
Super high impact.
I apologize to everybody. I'm a little bit low energy today. It's been a long work week. What can I say? We're full-time professionals, I guess you could say, part-time Blender Noob streamers.
Yeah, and we love it, and we love you guys for joining us, and be safe and continue to do art.
Yeah, let's find a good catchphrase for this. Noob on. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
Stay. What is it? Stay calm and noob on. I don't know. We'll come up with something amazing.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
All right. We'll see you, everybody.